He's the man of the hour right here, people, because the mere presence of Sebastian Cossa is opening the forbidden door for Red Wings fans to go out there and discuss the future, short term at least, of their goaltending. This is the player I wanted to talk about today, Cam Talbot, whose picture on Elite Prospects is actually still of him in LA. Kinda got to get into updating that, I think, EP. But he plays for the Detroit Red Wings now, and Talbot is not the best this year. .892 save percentage, .299 goals against average. I get it, save percentages across the NHL are down, but Cam Talbot definitely is not the number one option in Detroit anymore. John Gibson has taken the throne, and he has run away with that lead. That's not a bad thing. That's just how things are. He's doing very well. With that said, though, I wanted to dive into an article posted onto ProHockeyRumours.com. It's very interesting, Pro Hockey Rumors. They usually go out there with updates and news and actual things that go down. I mean, their top stories here: Kevin Fiala, injury; Josh Morrissey, injury; Gavin McKenna, misdemeanor; Braden Point is out, Seth Jarvis is in. These are all things that happened. They rarely go out there and actually post their own speculation. And if they do post speculation, it's usually because somebody else in the media went out there and said it. But this piece came out yesterday, and I thought it was interesting enough to read. Should the Detroit Red Wings trade Cam Talbot? Written and published by Brennan McLean, the article will be linked in the description if you want to read this yourself. I know a lot of Red Wings fans, upon seeing this title, and upon even seeing the title of this video and the thumbnail, y'all had your opinions processed and ready to go. I would not even be surprised if the comment section was already arguing about stuff and whether or not this guy should get traded or not, but let's go out there and read what McLean has to say. The Red Wings are in an interesting position leading up to the trade deadline. They sit third in the Atlantic Division, but are only 7 points away from the postseason cutoff entirely. Given their position, it is unlikely that they'll remove any pieces from their active roster, but would it make sense in the long run? There's no question it is John Gibson's net in Detroit. After a shaky start with the second franchise of his career, he has been unstoppable since December, posting an 18-5-1 record in 24 games with a .923 save percentage. Oh my goodness. Outstanding numbers, aren't they? I mean, you think about John Gibson and his overall season, it's like, he barely is over 900 on the year in totality. He's at a 904 right now, which firstly shows you just how good he has been as of late, but secondly, it also shows you how bad he was to open things up. Anyways, back to the main topic at hand. The team in front of the Red Wings goaltender is performing very well, but it is difficult to argue that their recent success is not primarily due to Gibson's excellent play in goal. That leaves veteran Cam Talbot in an awkward spot. Splitting the net at the beginning of the year, Talbot is now cemented as the team's backup, playing in 9 games since December, with one of those coming in relief. It comes 1 year after he had received the majority of the starts in Detroit, earning a 21, 19-5 record and a .900 save percentage during 24-25. Given their competitive nature and firmly being in a playoff contention position for the first time in a decade, it usually wouldn't make sense for Detroit to reduce its roster. However, Talbot is one of the easiest netminders to move, given his lack of trade protection and relatively low salary. Coupled with the fact that the trade market for netminders is relatively thin, GM Stevie Y could capitalize in a big way. The article goes out there and talks about his hypothetical trade market. There would be at least a few teams, the writer says. The Hurricanes, Oilers, and Golden Knights are competitive teams in need of goaltending reinforcements. It's hard to envision Talbot becoming the starter for any of those teams, but he would at least provide much-needed breathing room if something went wrong with their regular starters. And the kicker here is that the Red Wings apparently would not need a goaltender in return because they do have Sebastian Cossa, and he's been doing pretty well. If the Wings continue to use Gibson as they have, Cossa would be burdened with only 7 or 8 starts throughout Detroit's last 24 games to finish the season. If Cossa is going to back up Gibson next season anyway, what more valuable experience could you give a young netminder than a seasoned veteran like Gibson to prepare for the postseason? To be clear, this isn't an argument that says that this should be the Wings' only move or even a priority. Still, if there's a market for Talbot, they're in a unique position to acquire assets for someone they know won't be on the team next year. And they'll still remain competitive. You know, I honestly wasn't very convinced at the start of reading that piece. Oh, you want Gibson and you want Talbot because they're both solid, in theory, and if Gibson craps the bed once in a while, you have an experienced veteran like Cam Talbot who knows how to win, who has been very good the past few years, who is off to a pretty rough start this season, but whose body of work includes however many seasons this is of 900-plus save percentage hockey, with the exception of this 1 year with the Ottawa Senators. Cam Talbot is generally reliable. But the idea that his contract is expiring at the end of the year, he's making $2.5 million a season, so he's very cheap, and the fact that his long-term future is absolutely not with the Red Wings, we all recognize he's not going to be re-signed, most likely, it does pique my interest to hear teams like Vegas or Edmonton or Carolina potentially being teams that could need goaltending support. It's definitely not something that I thought we expected to see. Carolina, they've got a bunch of goaltenders, but it's like, hey, the guys are hurt, the guys are inconsistent, and now you got Brandon Bussi, who is the number one in Carolina all of a sudden. Same thing with Edmonton. They got Tristan Jarry, they traded away Stuart Skinner, but guess what? Jarry sucks now too. Connor Ingram has been the best goaltender in Edmonton. You can't even think about relying on Cal Pickard for a second if you're going into the playoffs. And then Vegas, guys are in and out there too. Akira Schmid, sometimes Aiden Hill, other times. And then you have Carter Hart, who is absolutely not good. So could a guy like Cam Talbot be heading back over to Western USA and helping out a team like Vegas, for example? I'm thinking about it like this. The Vegas Golden Knights the past few years, they have added so much in terms of legitimate game-breaking talent over the years, from Pacioretty to Stone to Hurdle to Eichel to Marner, Pietrangelo even. There are so many guys that end up finding themselves onto Vegas. Cam Talbot, I feel, he does not live up to that standard of superstardom that all these other Vegas Golden Knights guys ended up being. But sometimes that's okay, right? Like, you don't always have to get the superstar. I know Vegas generally does that, but getting somebody of Cam Talbot's caliber just to stabilize their net minding a little bit does seem like more of a safeguard move rather than a go-for-it type of swing. Edmonton going after Talbot, that would make sense too because, hey, he played there before and he was decent. I mean, a 9-19 season with 73 games played in 2017. Goodness gracious, that was crazy. He had a .924 save percentage in the playoffs in 13 games that year. He should have been nominated for the gosh darn Vezina. Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, most wins in the NHL that year, but they didn't give him the nomination because he played on Edmonton. How sad. 7 shutouts, too. What a monster Cam Talbot was with the Oilers. I am just being reminded of that. But with all that said, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Does this pitch make sense? Does Brennan McLean's idea that the Wings don't really have anything to gain by keeping Talbot around this season make sense in your mind? And do you think a trade to any of these teams actually would work too? Vegas, Edmonton, Carolina, if you're a fan of any of these teams, what are your thoughts on acquiring a guy like Cam Talbot? What's the most you'd be willing to pay for a backup goaltender like this to help bolster up your team into the playoffs? You can say, hey, Lego, the Red Wings are going to make the playoffs, so why don't they just keep him as an own rental? And to that, I actually do somewhat agree with the thesis that was proposed in the article, like, hey, if you think that Kosa is going to be the backup next year, why not give him an early start? If you're going to rely on Gibson, rely on Gibson. You don't need to have any secondary, tertiary guys in a just-in-case scenario. I say all that until, knock on wood, John Gibson gets injured again. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about all this conversation with the Red Wings. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.